I'm going to call the meeting of September 10 to order, please. First up on the agenda is I have to read an opening statement about the operation of the board. Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body created by the City of Iowa City according to state statutes. The board's purpose is to decide on applications for variances from the zoning ordinance, appeals of decisions of city officials, and applications for special exceptions requested under the zoning ordinance. Board of Adjustment is an independent volunteer board made up of Iowa City residents and is not part of the city administration. We are assisted in our work by the city attorney's office and by planning staff. Prior to this meeting, board members received the materials submitted by the applicants, the staff reports reviewing the application, and any correspondence submitted by members of the public. Board members have not discussed the application or its merits with each other, staff, the applicant, or any other member of the public in advance of this meeting. All consideration and discussion by the board takes place in open meeting here tonight, where we also have an opportunity to hear from the public. Board bases its decisions on facts and evidence allowed by city code presented in open meeting. Concise and truthful testimony helps us a great deal in our decision making. We ask that if you wish to speak tonight, that you come to the podium, print your name, address on the sign-in sheet, and speak clearly into the microphone so your testimony can be heard by all present and by our minute taker as all testimony becomes part of the public record. We ask that the proceedings be orderly and that when you are testifying, you address your remarks to the board. And if this hearing becomes lengthy, we may ask that testimony be focused on new facts or on information not already presented. The order of proceedings for each application will be an oral report by staff summarizing the issues of the case and staff's recommendations, an opportunity for the applicant to speak, an opportunity for any other interested parties to speak for or against the application, an opportunity for final statements and arguments by the applicant and staff, and the board will discuss the issues and evidence, state its findings, and vote on a motion. Motions are always made in the affirmative. With that, we should do roll call. I haven't done that yet, have we?
Let's do roll call. Tallman?
Here.
Carlson?
Here.
Russo?
Here.
Baker?
Here.
Swigert?
And now, first item on the agenda is special exception item EXC 25-0005, an application submitted by the Iowa City Bike Library requesting a special exception to allow a parking reduction in an intensive commercial CI1 zone for the property located at 1222 Gilbert Court. And first up, we'll have staff report.
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair mentioned, this is a request for a special exception to reduce parking at 1222 Gilbert Court. Here's a location map showing the location of the property on Gilbert Court. And here's a zoning map. The property is zoned intensive commercial, and the surrounding properties are also zoned intensive commercial. In terms of background, the specific request is to reduce parking by 50% on the site. The Bike Library owns and operates this site. They purchased it in 2021 and have been operating from this site since then. The existing land use requires 5 parking spaces, so with the 50% reduction, they would be required to provide 2. And the remaining area would be used for green space and bike parking. Staff found a building permit from 1987 that shows that the city approved 6 parking spaces on this property back then. All those spaces were located in the front of the building. They are all currently non-conforming. The way that they are designed, they would be required, that cars would be required to back out onto the street, and it would not allow any space for green space or bicycle amenities. Here are a couple photographs of the property. And here's the site plan that was submitted with the application. The left side of the plan shows kind of the existing conditions. The property's paved from property line to property line. On the right is the proposed improvements. I have that zoomed in here. So what they're proposing is to repave the sidewalk, to do some repaving of the drive access, incorporate some green space within the right-of-way between the street and the sidewalk in this location and in this location. And then where you see kind of the green speckled, that would be additional green space provided on their site. In this area here, they would be providing a covered parking area and a bicycle service area. And then the 2 parking spaces would be located here. The role of the board in this case is to approve with conditions, or deny the application based on the facts presented. To approve the special exception, the board must find that it meets all applicable approval criteria, the specific standards, and the general standards, which I'll go through now. The specific standard, this is related to parking reduction for other unique circumstances, where it can be demonstrated that a specific use has unique characteristics such that the number of parking or stacking spaces required is excessive. The board can approve a special exception to reduce the parking by up to 50%. Staff finds that the property is owned and operated by the Bike Library. Their vision is to empower people to make bicycling a primary form of transportation in our community. Due to the work that they do, the use has unique characteristics that require fewer vehicular parking spaces because many people travel to the Bike Library on bike. The primary patrons of the Bike Library travel on bike to service their bicycles, trade in, or participate in bicycling-related activities. Again, in 1987, the city approved 6 parking spaces on the site. However, they are not striped and they are non-conforming based on today's standards. And again, they would require backing out onto Gilbert Court, which is no longer allowed by the zoning ordinance. Additionally, the Bike Library also needs space for bicycle parking and amenities, as well as the green space. The current site is paved from property line to property line, and they'd like to improve that site by removing some of that paved area and replacing it with green space. The reduction in parking will allow the Bike Library to provide some on-site parking while incorporating these other amenities, the green space and the bicycle amenity space. In terms of the general standards, the first standard is that the specific proposed exception will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, comfort, and general welfare. The proposed project will improve the site by incorporating additional green space and bike amenities. Without this parking reduction, the property would not be able to incorporate the amount of proposed green space, and finding space for bike amenities would be a challenge. Access to surrounding properties will not be affected. Access to the subject property will remain the same, but improved with the new pavement. The second criteria is that the proposed exception will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity and will not diminish property values. Staff finds that the proposed site improvements will not impact the ability of neighbors to utilize and enjoy their properties, nor will it negatively impact property values in the neighborhood. The only changes to the property are changes to the site, not the operations of the Bike Library. Therefore, no increase in traffic to the site is anticipated. The third criteria is that the establishment of the proposed exception will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties. Staff finds that the surrounding property is already fully developed with a variety of commercial and semi-industrial uses. Criteria 4 is that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. Staff finds that the subject property is already developed. All utilities, access roads, drainage, and necessary facilities are already established in this neighborhood. There's pedestrian access provided by a sidewalk along Gilbert Court. The closest Iowa City Transit stop is at Gilbert Street and Kirkwood Avenue. And additionally, many visitors utilize the city's bicycle infrastructure. The fifth criteria is that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress or egress designed to minimize traffic congestion on public streets. The project includes improvements within the public right-of-way, including repaving of the public sidewalk and adding new pavement for the access drives. No changes are proposed to the existing street, and the on-street parking that's allowed on the western side of Gilbert Court will continue. The sixth criteria is that except for the specific regulations and standards applicable for the exception in all other respects conforms to the applicable regulations of the zoning code. The subject property meets the requirements of the base zone. And again, going back to that permit from the 1980s, that was used using the applicable codes at that time regarding the use at that time, the number of spaces, size and location that was required by the zoning ordinance at that time, which was 6 parking spaces. Those spaces are now non-conforming and do not meet current standards. With the approval of the proposed parking reduction, all parking on the site would comply with current regulations. And then the final criteria is that the proposed exception will be consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city. And the comprehensive plan identifies this area as appropriate for general industrial land uses. The comprehensive plan has goals to accommodate all modes of transportation and encourages walking and bicycling. And a parking reduction would align with the plan's vision to promote more bicycling in the community. Staff did receive 2 pieces of correspondence which were provided to the board this morning, and copies were made available tonight. So the subject property is here at 1222 Gilbert Court. They were neighboring property owners that submitted the letters, one at 1213 in this location here, and then at 12, I think it's either 33 or 31 Gilbert Court on this property here. Staff is recommending approval of EXC 25-0005 to reduce the on-site parking requirement by 50% from 5 to 2 parking spaces for the bike library located at 1222 Gilbert Court. And with that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the staff from the board?
Yes. Can you explain the parking situation as it is now with the 6 parking spaces, where they are on the property?
Well-
And then where the parking spaces would be with the new plan?
Yeah. So I have the plan from 1987 here. And it shows, these are the parkings, here's the building location hasn't changed.
Okay.
And these are the parking spaces. They're angled. There's 3 here, 3 here.
Okay.
And so you can see how they're angled. You'd have to back out onto the street and then go on your way. So that was what was approved. So they could continue that configuration if they wanted to, keep that non-conforming parking in place. The issue is that this is really the only area for parking on the site, and they need to use it for other things. So what they're proposing is 2 spaces in this location here. So before it was parking, 3 here, 3 here, and they would be making half of that green space and amenity space and keeping 2 spaces in this location, orienting them in a way where they would not have to back out onto the street.
And they own, the property line is 25 feet, or I'm sorry, 15 feet from the southernmost point of those parking spots, is that correct?
Okay, so this is the property, maybe you could see it better here. This is the property line, and this is the property line
The building line is
here.
right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, when I was down there this morning, there were 2 vehicles parked on the south side, sort of in front of the Iowa City garage. But the only way it looked like they had come in from this property. They were parked,
Down here?
yeah, right in here. They were parked parallel to the street, facing south. So were those vehicles, were they city vehicles or?
Yeah, I don't know. The city does own the property to the south. So I guess I don't know which property they were on, but There's no approved parking for kind of this driveway here on the subject property.
Okay, because it was sort of confusing as to who, and it was before noon, so the bike library was not open.
Okay.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Julie, you got anything?
Yeah,
Yeah. You hear me okay?
yeah.
How many, has there been any use of those 6 parking spaces approved? I mean, has anybody used that area for parking?
I don't believe the bike library has. I think that, and I think you can kind of see this in this picture here. Maybe in this one it's better. They have some bike amenities in and some bike parking in an area that would not allow at least some of that parking to continue, but it looks like they're kind of using maybe some of the parking on the north side that was approved.
And the right of way,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay. I mean, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, let's blame that on their electrician.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, that's all.
Mark? Any questions?
Well, is the applicant gonna speak? I have questions for them.
Yeah, unless the commission or board has more questions.
Okay. Let me go back to a clarification on, this is page 2, where you talk about all of these spaces are currently non-conforming and would not allow the bike library to remove parking for green space and bicycle amenities. Is an amenity different than bicycle parking spaces, racks, for example? Is a rack considered the amenity?
It's both parking spaces, but also things like bike pumps and things that people can use to service their bicycle.
Okay.
And I'm sure the bike library can explain that better than I can.
And with the next sentence, with the proposed request, green space and amenities would be added, and the requested 2 parking spaces would meet current standards. So the way I'm reading that is, if this lot were empty and you built the same building on it, they would only be required to have 2 parking spaces?
Current standards in terms of the dimensions, the location, that type of thing. Whereas the main thing with the parking from 87 is the orientation. And there's other things that those 6 parking spaces don't meet. But with the proposed parking, they would not be backing out onto the street.
Okay. So in a sense, they're just bringing it up to code?
Yeah, in terms of our standards, it's not just how many spaces, but how the parking is designed.
Okay.
But this is a special exception. I mean, under normal circumstances, would they be required to have 5 parking spaces?
Yeah, or use the 6 that were approved.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but this is a special exception where they are asking for relief from those parking spaces because of the orientation of their business.
And so the request is for the reduction in spaces, but the spaces that they are providing still need to meet our design standards for parking spaces.
Okay. When I look at this layout, it's obvious that they barely have space now for 2, even though they, in the past, had 6 spaces approved. So I guess I'll have a question for the applicant about how long this arrangement has been there and how long it's this is the condition that the neighbors have been used to over time. Sort of a parallel question. Is there a city regulation about when the requirement for a handicap parking space kicks in?
Yeah, 10 spaces or more.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
One of the other things about this is that with the way it is now, the sidewalk is I would believe would be somewhat hazardous to use because of all the vehicle traffic right there backing in and out. I don't know if I would want to walk on that side of the street, and it's really sort of hard to tell where the sidewalk is on the frontage of that property.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Anything else?
I have one more question, and it concerns the language, unique circumstances. The language in that clause is pretty much devoted to historic structures. How does this, what makes this business any different than any other business in terms of selling a unique take on something, a unique product? How did the city come to that determination that it qualifies under that clause?
Yeah, let me share it here. So the standard is that you have to demonstrate one of two things. One, that the specific use has unique characteristics such that the number of parking spaces is excessive or will reduce the ability to use or occupy a historic property. So in this case, it's not a historic property. It's a use that has unique characteristics where the parking is excessive.
Okay, so everything relies on that clause, unique characteristics.
Yes, for this application, yeah.
Is this, and this is a question for you, are we precedent setting here?
No,
Not at all.
not with a special exception. It's specific to the exception.
So a restaurant couldn't come and say, we sell, we're a very unusual restaurant in Iowa City in the Midwest. We need more outdoor space because we have a huge clientele. They couldn't argue that we sort of set a precedent with that?
They could argue that, but that's not the legal decision. It's irrelevant legally.
It's not relevant legally.
Right.
Okay.
One final point. One of the compelling factors in favor of the applicant is the current use of the business, the bicycle use. But if this business were to be sold and another business went in there, if we allow the 2 spots now, that's permanent, correct?
It would depend on what the new user was doing. If they were proposing any expansion, then we'd probably take a look at it. Any site changes, we would look at it. If it's just a change of use, it probably wouldn't come to planning and zoning for a review. It would have to be something, an expansion or something that would trigger a zoning review.
Okay. So that's my version of precedent that Mark was talking about, but in a different way, just on the same property, same building. Once we put in place this too, it's going to stay unless there's compelling reasons on the dramatic change of use, but it's going to stay at 2. Correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else? If not, I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask the applicant to speak, please. Be sure and sign in and identify yourself.
Good evening, board members. My name is James Kincaid. I'm a civil engineer with Axiom Consultants, representing the Bike Library. There's several staff members of the Bike Library here too, but I'm going to do my best to address.
Speak up.
Could you
Do my best to address some of your engineering-related concerns, use-related concerns. However best you'd like me to address them, I have some notes here. If you'd like to start with questions to me directly, I'm happy to answer that way.
Board?
He wants to ask. I didn't hear the question.
Before, you have some information to present, but you were going to open up for questions first. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, from the staff discussion, it sounded like there were some questions ready for me.
Okay.
Otherwise, Ann had a great summary of the project. I think one thing that maybe was understated is that we find ourselves wanting or seeking this exception because the bike library is interested in the rehabilitation of this front area, which includes removal and replacement of a lot of the poor condition pavement in this area and replacing that with beautification in the form of green space, things like that. The implication of wanting to do those improvements means anything proposed needs to be code compliant. So if the bike library chose to do nothing and keep the poor condition out front, they could rely on the 1987 site plan as their guiding document for what's allowable, even though that layout could never be approved in the current code. So that upgrading the site into nicer pavement, green space means we now need to provide code compliant parking lot, which means that 22-foot wide drive aisle, 18 by 19 stalls, and a turning movement that doesn't cause patrons to back out into Gilbert Court. We find ourselves having to be code compliant as well as address kind of the historical use of the bike library. My understanding in conversation with staff is that although not delineated that way now, the 2 stalls is how it's functioning for patrons in that area, and obviously not for electrical contractors, but that was the basis of the ask to get a reduction down from the required 5 in the current code, as well as acknowledging it is the mission of the bike library to promote bike travel. They know historically that a lot of the patrons do that. Part of this beautification is providing additional exterior bike parking to furthermore encourage bike travel in lieu of vehicular parking stalls. Another note I have briefly here, there was a question about ADA, and I know one of the correspondents from a neighbor asked about ADA. Although we are not required to delineate an ADA stall, being only 2 stalls provided, both the stalls will be ADA design compliant. So if somebody found themselves parking in either one of these, they would be able to function out of that stall in the same way they would a delineated ADA stall.
Questions?
So your hours are from noon until 5, 3 days a week, and and 10 until 3 on Saturday?
2 days a week. 2 days a week.
2 days a week.
5, noon to 5, 2 days a week, and 10 to 3 on Saturdays. Okay, so on those days, then you're open and individuals can come by themselves, come to avail them of your services.
Yes.
Up until this time, since you've been here for a reasonable period of time, how many of the people who come to avail themselves of your services on these days come in cars?
I imagine it's a hard question to answer with a substantive number. I know through conversations that the orientation that is being proposed is how the site is more or less being used now. I have to imagine that the bike library would want to provide enough parking for the use of the patrons. We agreed via site conditions and things like that, that 2 would be adequate and has traditionally and historically been adequate. I know that there is an explicit ask for some additional bike parking, which is that north area of the drive aisle. a big part of wanting to create some green space and then get some very clear bike stalls there. It's my understanding that the use of the site historically in normal non-event scenarios too has been deemed adequate by the owners.
Okay, on 2 days a week, you have groups that come. One, I believe, is a teenage group, and one is women.
Yes.
And so do they all come at the same time? Do they all usually ride bicycles? I'm trying to get an idea of when this is scheduled, what is this event like?
Hi, Audrey here, Director. So on Tuesday nights from 6 to 8, we have 15 to 20 people showing up for our Women Trans Femme Night. I would say about 75% of people are arriving by bicycle, and they arrive at different times throughout the night. On Thursdays from 3 to 5 is Outspoken Teens, and as far as I know, none of our teens are driving, and they get dropped off by their parents. Most of their parents do not stay. We have anywhere from 5 to 15 teens showing up to work on their Erna bikes that they get to work on for a month before they get to take those bikes home for free, in which case they then show up on their own on their bikes that they fix themselves. If their parents are not able to drop them off, then they either arrive by bus or on a bike that they already have, and they're coming to maintain that bike, or a teacher or a family friend is bringing them.
To date, have you had any parking issues?
So the way we use it now, like James said, is we have 2 spots that we try to encourage people to use. They're not striped. And we have signs posted on in 3 different places that says, please do not use neighbors' parking. It's posted on our front door and on 2 sandwich boards, and use on-street park or off-street parking on Gilbert Court. We have had Nancy Footner and Arnold Motor Supply come to us previously and let us know that they don't want our patrons or staff to park in their parking lots, which is understandable. And we've tried as best as we can to ask staff and patrons and volunteers not to use that parking across the street or any neighbor's parking and just park on the street. I talked to a customer today who showed up at about 3:30, and he said he didn't have a problem finding any on-street parking, and that when he can't find on-street parking within, a few yards of our property, he doesn't mind walking down the street a bit. So if you do show up and there is, not one of these parking spots available, you just might have to walk a little bit further. And we have informal agreements with some neighbors, Advanced Electric, and I-Core down the street, which is on Highland and Gilbert Court, that any overflow parking for after 5 p.m. activities that happen either like on a Friday night or a Saturday for a special event, we can use their parking lots for overflow parking.
What was, in one of, we got 2 letters, not opposition, just voicing concern.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you've seen them.
Yep.
The lady, the yoga person, referred to something resilience. And what is that?
Yeah, so Nancy is a longtime friend of the bike libraries. She helped us find this location when we were looking for a location to buy in 2021, and we will never be selling it. She actually spearheaded an effort a few years ago to get a sidewalk put in south of our facility, south of our property, because we do have people in wheelchairs that are using South Gilbert Court as a thoroughfare to go to lots of different social service agencies and also using the bike library. And we would like to, piggyback on her efforts and make that sidewalk, continue that sidewalk through our property so that it is more amenable to people in wheelchairs. Because right now it's not, and it's a safety concern. And your original question was, tell me again real quick. Nancy's.
She asked, or she said something to the effect that
Oh, the Resiliency Hub. Yeah, so the city has named the bike library one of 2 resiliency hubs in Iowa City. So the neighborhood centers of Johnson County and the bike library have been named a resiliency hub. And what that means is that the bike library receives funding from the city of Iowa City to be an emergency shelter or emergency location in the event of a climate emergency. So if
Tornado.
we don't have power, there is a heat wave, there is a cold, like a really cold snap, there is any kind of climate emergency, people know to come to the bike library to either warm up, charge their cell phones, cool down, because we have AC now for the first time in 21 years. We have solar panels. We've just installed 80 solar panels and will be fully running off of solar power very soon. We work with lots of different populations, and the city has named us a resiliency hub because we have closer contact with populations than the city can. So, for example, we have a program offsite that is specifically for Latino women to learn how to ride bikes, and we meet every Wednesday at Terry Trueblood. We have a very large group of people that come there and have been coming to that program for years now, and we're easily able to communicate with those populations in the event of emergency. They know that they can show up to the bike library and get the information they need, or we can direct them to where they need to go. So we won't serve as a shelter, but we will serve as a centralized location for getting information out to people quickly.
and so her concern was that will increase traffic or parking, the parking pressure. Is that your assessment?
I mean, in the event of an emergency situation, I don't see why
That shouldn't matter.
that should matter. I think just taking care of people is the biggest priority.
Sorry, if I can just add to that, I spoke with our sustainability coordinator about this designation too, and she agrees with what Audrey is saying, that the resiliency hub designation is not going to be increasing traffic. It's not going to add more programming. It is like a way to get information out to the community.
My other question would be for the engineer, Mr.
Kincaid.
Can you describe? Can you call up the site plan again?
Yeah.
And show me exactly the 2 parking spots. You've got different kind of graphics here.
Yep. And that's delineating new and existing pavement. So there's a really poor condition panel of asphalt concrete underneath that. It kind of looks orangish on this screen, which makes up half of the proposed parking stalls. So we're only removing the poorest condition concrete out there. There's a PCC panel that's immediately in front of the garage door that's decent condition. There's a few panels, including the whole north side and this kind of midsection here of just bad asphalt. So that's what these different hatches are. And the hatch that finds itself in the right-of-way there is a 2-foot section for a remove and replace of a ribbon curb, as well as a new section for the apron of the driveway. And then the speckled is the new delineated, much clearer, will be great looking. This will be 5 foot wide instead of the more narrow sidewalk that the north and south neighbors have of just a PCC sidewalk.
And the section, the small section to the east of the parking area is a diagonal striping. What is that?
That is I would call it a gore area.
That's a what?
A gore area. It is, as you see, adjacent to ADA stalls or areas where you do not want vehicles to park.
Okay.
It is just paint on the ground. It is not required. To me, we need some sort of movement through there for walking, and it would just discourage somebody from parking there.
So there's no physical barrier between the two parking areas at all, right?
Correct.
Parking spots. So you can back out and you have about 15 feet, is that correct? To turn?
So they're going to come in, sorry if I can explain this, James, tell me if this is wrong. They're going to come in here and park headfirst this way,
Okay, I'm misreading this then.
and then back out and head back out that way. They're not going to be parking here.
That 15-foot aisle on the south will be encouraged to be seen as the private access to get bike library vehicles back to their overhead doors that are tucked back into that pavement area.
Okay, I see. Now I understand.
Another big part of this is there's some, there's a sea of pavement here now. There's some gutters that discharge on the north side of this property, as well as some pretty tight drainage for this big pavement area on the south side. And the bike library has done some improvements to push water out of there. These improvements would further ensure some security from rainwater finding itself back into the structure and getting that rainwater into Gilbert Court's gutter, as well as the gutter isn't in the best condition, so our rehab of this area will help push stormwater more quickly. I think it's north to south here, and just kind of revitalize some of that more engineering-focused infrastructure there.
So is the green space essentially like sod, or is it permeable pavers with grass growing in them? What
My understanding is it will be grass and some plantings. Ann had some coordination during this that City of Iowa City Engineering will definitely have some feelings about what these sections look like and how they're planted and things like that. So that will come during a kind of a minor site plan review of this. But it is the bike library's position to make this nice with some landscaping and plantings and things.
And then there's sort of a service pad poured in the middle of that, is that correct?
Yes, so that we wanted to,
That doesn't exist now?
correct, it does not.
Okay. And this is roofed?
Yes, it will be covered. It will, the two pieces of service equipment that are in some of those photos that are kind of located immediately in the middle of the drive aisle there, those yellow pieces of equipment, those I believe will be relocated in there, as well as the bike parking itself.
It's roofed but not enclosed, correct?
Correct. That's my understanding.
Okay.
So you're asking for just 2 parking spaces.
Correct.
On an average day, how many people are working for you, working for the library? Volunteers, how many people are there running the operation?
So we have 5 staff that are there 4 days a week, and 2 of them are there on Mondays. And more than 50% of the time, staff are biking to work. We all live in Iowa City within a 3-mile radius, so it's easy for us to bike there. And then when we are open for those 10 hours during the week, when patrons are arriving by foot or by bike or by car. If I had to estimate, I would say 25 to 35% of people are arriving in their car. That does not include the people who are dropping off bikes for donations, which is something different. On any given Saturday, we could have upwards of 35 bikes donated in one day. And this is on a Saturday, which is our busy day. And people usually they drive their bike or their bikes to the bike library, they park in front, they unload their bike, and they leave. Most people do not need anything. Like I would say 10% of people who drop off donations are there for more than 5 minutes. So there's people who are making donations, and then there are people who are using our services. So those are two kind of distinct groups.
So, the people who run your operation, if they come in a car, where do they park?
So if it is outside of the 10 hours when we're open during the day, they can park anywhere on our property, or they can use on-street parking. And when we are open to the public during those 10 hours, they use on-street parking.
When you're open, then these two spots will be dedicated for
Patrons.
patrons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Patrons are people dropping off donations.
Nancy, anything else?
Well, certainly the landscape down there is a mess. Undefined boundaries, overlaps, different materials, and bringing some order to this is certainly an attractive prospect. And that, in that regard, I congratulate you. Again, one of our major concerns as a board is, loss of park. The town is parking heavy, right? And spots are harder and harder to get. So, we're a reluctant group to give up any kind of parking, and that's probably why you're feeling grilled.
Yeah, which is, that's understandable too. And it is our mission to empower, it is our mission to get more people on bicycles. We all own cars. I'm pretty sure here, everybody at most people at the bike library own a car. But, getting more people to choose to bike for 2 to 3 miles, which is the majority of the trips that are made around town, helps everybody because it reduces congestion, period. And that's good for motorists because they want to drive and park in places that have reduced congestion. And it's good for pedestrians and cyclists because it makes it safer for people to walk and bike somewhere. So our mission is to get more people on bikes, and then our vision is to empower people to make biking a primary form of transportation and to encourage people to choose to bike for those short trips around town so that we can see a reduction in the number of people that are driving short distances in their cars. 20 bikes fit in one area where one car fits. So, our plans are very much in line with the city's strategic plans to help reduce emissions, and become net zero by 2050. And so we're in it for the long game with the city.
Anybody else? Nancy? Julie, you got anything?
No
Julie?
questions for the applicant.
Oh, I didn't hear what she said.
She
said
said
no
no
more
questions.
Okay.
She said no more questions?
No more.
She said no questions. She had no questions.
All right. Audrey, I just have a couple of questions, please.
Yeah.
I want to get a clarification on employee parking. You do or do not allow your employees to park in the spots that you have?
We don't allow employees to park in the the two spots that are currently not delineated, and we will not allow in this plan, if this plan is enacted, we will not allow employees to park in those two spots during the 10 hours. However, outside of those 10 hours, we do allow parking anywhere on our property, including those two delineated parking spots.
Okay, great, thank you. I was confused a little bit by the design. You're going to access the parking through that entrance that's currently blocked off. Is that the plan? Okay, so you've got a bike rack blocking off the current access. How long has that been there? The question is basically, how long have you been operating with two spots anyway?
We've been operating with two spots since we purchased the building in 2021, and currently the non-delineated spots are require people to back out onto Gilbert Court, which is not ideal, but that is just the way it's set up. Otherwise, if we took away that bike rack that kind of sits in front that's blocking where we plan to have the entrance, as you can imagine, the car parking gets to be a little chaotic.
Sure.
Because there are no lines. And so we have lots of people pulling up as close to a foot away from our door entrance at a diagonal, and people will park any which way.
Okay, the reason I ask is because I just want to understand that the concern about the consequences of approving this special exception have already been in existence since you opened the business for 4 years, right? And in general, what has been the problem? I mean, I know the neighbors have sent a couple of letters, but how often do you get complaints about the situation that exists in the past, which is not really going to change for the future?
Complaints from neighbors or complaints from patrons or volunteers?
Parking complaints about your commercial neighbors.
There have been a few, but it's not very often. We have pretty good relationships with most of our neighbors. For example, the city of Iowa City, that is right next door, we have great relationship with them, in which we have a 3-year lease with them to paint on their property. And then the neighbors to the north, Sharpless, that owns that building, I think it's Brad Sharpless. We have a good relationship with them. He's currently looking for a renter.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're working under the assumption that this change will not exacerbate something that already exists. We're not going to change the conditions basically that already exist.
Correct.
Okay. Under that pad, last question, under the pad, how many parking racks bicycle racks do you plan on having?
We plan on having so it's not one bike rack does not give you, like a certain, it gives you a range.
Yeah.
It depends. If you look at the bike rack right outside City Hall right now, we have one bucket bike, which probably takes up as much room as 2.5 bikes. We have one little bike that takes up not a lot of room, and then we have one recumbent bike that takes up maybe 1.5 parking spots. So it's a range. We'd like to be able to park 20 bikes there.
Okay, how many can you park now?
Well, on the current rack that's there, maybe 7 to 10.
Okay, so because one of the implicit assumptions I'm reading in this application is that there'll be more bike parking, that this will facilitate more actual parking for bikes available. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Oh, Nancy, go ahead.
Okay, so your busiest day is Saturday, is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah.
How many of the other businesses around there are open on Saturday?
I don't believe any of them, unless so I think that there are a couple auto shops. I don't know, is Arnold Motor Supply open on Saturday? Yes, we are. Okay. So Arnold Motor Supply is open on Saturday. There are a couple auto shops that might be open.
The yoga store is not open, the yoga business?
I don't know if Nancy has classes on Saturdays.
Okay.
And you have, the women are, again, what is the time frame for them?
Tuesday night from 6 to 8.
Okay, so that is a time frame when the other businesses in the area are not open.
Correct.
And then you have the teenage thing from 3 until 5 on Thursday, but they don't usually drive. Their parents drop them off. And how many did you say usually come to that right now?
For outspoken teens, 5 to 15.
Do you want to, obviously, you want to increase the number of people who use your facility in the future? And so therefore, how might that affect the parking?
So we do not anticipate, we're not going to be adding any more programming. We are going to operate as we always have. I don't know if, we haven't talked about adding any more programs, adding any more open hours. We do a lot of work during the day when we're not open because we have lots of behind the scenes work that we need to get done. So we're not planning on increasing our hours. And if we do, it will be on Wednesdays and Fridays, like after 5 p.m. I don't anticipate a big increase in traffic. If there is any increase in traffic, it will be because maybe more people are finding out about us because they want to bike more often.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This time, we'll open up the public hearing for anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this issue. We'd like first to hear from anybody who would like to speak in favor of the application. And if not, we'll open up the public hearing to those who oppose the application.
My name is John Hagedorn. I'm the store manager for Arnold Motor Supply. We sent an email earlier about our concerns about the parking reduction. Our issues with the parking reduction is on the donation of the bikes because people are not riding there to donate or for the bike repair. And we do have influx of people parking in our parking lot. So that is our concern with the reduction, which they don't have parking already. So that's why they're in our spot. So that is our concern.
Okay, hold on just a second.
So this is already a problem with.
Yes, this is already a problem with on-street being congested with people dropping off donations and stuff like that. We run a delivery service. So going in and out of our parking lot with all the on-street parking during their times of business does oppose safety concerns for us because of going in and out, the influx of bike traffic, influx of pedestrian coming in and out of there as well. So that is our concern.
Okay. Is your parking marked as customer parking only?
It is not. We have discussed about doing it. It depends on what you guys, your verdict is. We have thought about doing that as making it as Arnold's patrons only.
Good. Okay. If the yoga person was here, I would ask her the same question if her property is marked that way. Go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to look at, I don't know where your property is exactly.
Okay, our
relative to-
property, yep. Our property is on the northwest side. It is 1213 right there. It is in the old Crowded Closet
So
building.
you're across the street?
Yep, we're diagonally across the street, yes.
So when I went down there this morning, your parking lot was pretty much filled with vehicles.
Correct. It's filled with employee and customer.
So do you have customers who come to your store, and do you also have employees that take parts to auto places?
Correct. Correct. So our parking lot is full mainly of employees that work for us. And then we have spots for the customer parking as well.
On Saturdays, do you have people who take parts to other automobile or other garages?
Yes,
for
our store hours on Saturday are open from 7:30 to 1 o'clock. So it is from their 10, or I guess our 10 to 1 is when the donations, or when they're able to take their donations during our business hours. We do have people parking in our stall, or in our spot, which then it turns into a safety concern with our delivery service.
So that's your major concern, is the conflict that can arise between the bike library and your business on Saturday mornings from 10?
Correct. That's the main the main thing. I mean, we've had instances in the past of bike patrons before, how they do, bike patrons parking, or test driving a bike in our parking lot, almost hitting our bikes or hitting our vehicles, or us almost hitting them because they're not paying attention. So it is a very big safety concern for us because of liability and stuff, because it's on our property.
Can you orient me on that map? I'm looking at photocopy. I'm looking at a dark mass that has sort of an L shape. Is that your building?
Yes, the 1213. Yep, the big dark mass right there. Yes, that is our parking lot.
They're right here.
It's right here.
Okay. Oh, this is much better.
Yep, our parking lot is split with A&E or Advanced Electrical. So we have the north side of the lot, they have the south side of the lot.
And you have one drive?
Yes, we have one drive.
And how many parking spaces?
Oh, a lot. I don't have an actual number of our parking stalls.
Curb and gutters then along that side of the street?
What's that now?
Is there curb and gutter along that side of the street? Where there isn't a drive,
Yes.
just south of your drive, is there curb and gutter that I see where people are parking?
Yes, that's all. Yes. Yes.
So you cannot, when Crowded Closet was there, you could go in the north, most people went in the north driveway, parked, went into the store, and when they came out, they made the U-turn thing and went out the south.
Yes, we do have some people that do that. The main point of entry is the north drive and then coming back out of the north drive. Yes. There is no line or there is no fence or anything that blocks people from doing that through A&E Electric or Advanced Electric. That's kind of an agreement because they needed more parking. So through our purchase, but that's just all.
Okay. So I don't want to oversimplify this, but there are two directions here. One, we're not talking about a future problem. You would like some relief for a current problem.
Correct.
That's not going to be affected basically by this change, that there's a problem, but this doesn't change the circumstances that create the problem for you.
Well, currently they do not have designated parking, as you see in the pictures. So then the overflow is the street or wherever people park, which is in our parking lot, is when they are donating bikes or bike repair.
Okay.
So that's the other part of their business, is for the donation of the bikes.
Okay. So would delineated spots in the future for their property in any way affect or improve your problem?
It would make it worse. For the less stalls, it would make it. We still have the current issue because they currently don't have the 6 stalls already there for their customers. They currently aren't using it because they're currently at 2. So we have the issue of parking.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out. If
Yes.
to remediate the current problem is going to require something between you and the other property owner that's going to be necessary regardless. Even if we did not approve this, they're still operating with the same 2 spaces.
Correct. And then, I mean, in our stance, then you should make them operate with stalls, with the 6 stalls that are there, because currently they're not. So they're not in compliance right now.
Am I correct, to the bike library, am I correct? If you're dropping off a bike, what's the dwell time?
It is a very short dwell. I can say it is a short dwell time, but it is
Does it
the
require a
consistency.
parking space, or do they typically just pull up, somebody unloads a bike and off they go, or how does that work?
I'll let her speak up for her business.
Usually people just drive up, take the bike out, or someone will see them drive up, and then a staff person will come and help them unload, and then they drive away.
Okay, so they don't really need a parking spot, is that correct? Or we need something in between.
If they wanted to drive up into into the space to the north of where the proposed delineated spots are, and just sit their car there and unload for 2 minutes, we're probably not going to be able to say, hey, can you pull into this parking spot before they get their bike out? But we do want to make it easy and safe for them to understand where they should park so that they can unload and then they can leave.
Okay, one of the concerns was that people actually using their bicycles on the other property.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've done this summer is we have installed a bike skills test ride loop, and that's why we have signed a agreement with the city of Iowa City to paint on their side of the property. So we have a shared, we call it the courtyard between 1222 and 1306. We have a shared courtyard area, and that long rectangular piece.
Is that where the track
That's where the track is. So now there's a big blue track there, and that's where we tell everybody that they should be test riding their bikes, or, basically just test riding their bikes. Hopefully to keep people off the street, keep people test riding off the sidewalk, and to keep people from going over to the neighbors' lots to test ride. So I don't know if you've seen a reduction in that, but that's the goal, is to keep people who are test riding safe within our property and the city's property that we have an agreement with.
How long has that been in existence?
2 months.
Okay.
That's true.
So as a question for the engineer, I'm sorry, I'm just jumping around, but were you aware of this problem, Mr. Engineer?
Go ahead.
The problem being parking.
Yes, with Arnold's.
Made aware of it this morning through the correspondence.
I'm just wondering, we got to find a solution here, right?
I don't think we can.
They should.
Yeah, they should.
The use of the neighbors' parking lots is not encouraged, permitted through any action of the bike library. It in conversation with staff during high volume events, as Audrey mentioned, there is signage saying, park here, overflow parking to be on the street. So there is good faith efforts and instruction from the bike library to get overflow parking into places where it's permitted, public parking. It's a tough effort to tell humans to do something they're not supposed to if that thing is convenient. I know on other projects that I've worked on in the capacity of an engineer, there are very concise efforts to delineate parking to patrons only. I work across from the Starbucks here on Burlington. There's very clear signs that say park here only if you're at Starbucks under threat of towing, things like that. It's my understanding that neither of the properties west of us employ any of those efforts. It's not something that the bike library can do for them. As I mentioned, there certainly have been efforts to alleviate that. In the same way that there might be some issues with individuals biking places they should not be biking. The bike library will do every effort possible to get those individuals to be safe, do those things, but not every,
They can't control.
we can't control everybody.
No, I understand.
Yeah. And I want to make a point to Mr. Baker's line of questioning earlier that we are, although framed that way in the exception as a reduction, it's not a literal reduction of parking stalls. The site exists currently with 2. We are wanting to do improvements on it, which means we have to be code compliant. That would be asking for a reduction of what the code demands of us. But the use of the site is not going to change substantively based on this approval.
Which was my point, which
Yep.
is like, we're not creating a problem, we just haven't solved a current problem. We, meaning y'all.
Yes, yep,
There are
exactly
two
that.
problems.
So just briefly, can you describe the mechanics of somebody dropping off? I'm thinking about the heavy load on Saturday morning. Does somebody have to drive into the driveway, park the car? How does that work?
For making a donation?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I mean, that sounds like that's the major stalling point. Is that correct? Kind of? Is that the slowest part of the process?
I would not say that's the slowest part of the process. For people, so the donations are really quick. Like I said, maybe 10% of the people who are dropping off donations are there for more than 5 minutes. So someone pulls in, if we see them right away, we'll come out and help them and expedite the process of unloading the bike or 2 or 5 that they're dropping off. And then they usually leave. We give them a receipt for their donation and then they leave. When people bring their bikes to work on, if they drive their bike to the shop and work on it, then they end up staying for longer. And so I think that's where it's slower.
And would that be the source of the parking issue for this gentleman, do you think?
Potentially, yeah. We do have 3 signs posted. We would be happy to work with our neighbors, Arnold Motor Supply, Advanced Electric, Friendship Yoga, to find a solution to this current issue through signage. I think that our signage could be maybe improved, and maybe they would want to have their own new signage to let people know that there's no bike parking allowed. Bike library parking allowed.
In this illustration right here, and this goes to the Arnold, a gentleman from Arnold's. Is there a potential issue in the parking arrangement that you see on this, in this photograph?
I mean, the arrangement, it's not, it's.
I mean, people are parking on the street here. They're
Correct.
parking
People
right
are
next to
parking on the
park.
street,
But I
yeah.
mean, that's all legal, and
Correct, it's all legal and whatnot.
where does the issue come?
The issue comes as their current model, as you see in the picture with the bike rack or whatnot. They do not have stalls marked for their customers, so they don't know where to park. And by the time they get there driving by, the street is full or not, so the overflow is my parking lot. To unload their bikes for repair or donation is what it is.
And is your parking lot posted? Can you post it?
We could, that's just,
I understand. We're trying to find the.
yes, I know we're trying to, I mean, our corporate sent the letter or whatnot. I'm just here representing, but that is the current issue. I mean, the thing is that, I just found out they're supposed to have 6 stalls, being here, and they're not operating with 6 stalls, which is here nor there, but there's no designated parking for their customers currently. And so when the street's full, because you can only park on one side of the street, you can't park on both sides, is what it is. And the street's already narrow, and it's when our business, we have delivery service, customers coming in and out. So it is a safety and liability concern for us.
So it's primarily people seeking repair or work on the bicycles that in a high-pressure situation, it's or compact situation, it's crowded right there.
Correct.
And that's usually on Saturdays?
Yes, Saturdays and yeah. Our business hours are 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Friday, and then 7:30 to 1 o'clock on Saturday.
All right, well, we got to solve this, right?
John, I want to make a quick apology. I don't want you to think that we cut you off earlier.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
And
No,
started
we're good.
asking
We're good.
other
It's
questions
just,
for other people.
it's just our stance is safety is where it is. Safety and liability is our corporate stance on it. And currently with the way that their parking is now, which isn't in compliance, we have the issue, and we're just stating the issue that we have.
Okay.
So,
Anything else that we need to know about?
nope, that's it.
Great, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Allison, here's a chance if any final comments from the applicant, anything that you want to bring up or clarify.
Hi, my name is Del Holland. I'm on the board of the Bike Library. First, I want to say I really appreciate you all being here and really trying to get a handle on this all the information you've been given. I guess one thing I would say, there was some discussion from you, Mark, about the fact that you're often put in this position of that there's not enough parking in Iowa City. We need more parking. And yet that's kind of in conflict with the city's goal to decrease the amount of vehicle traffic in town. And so I think, one of the things that we all are trying to do is model where we can get to. So providing, not only is this new bicycle parking that we're going to provide there, not only is there more parking, but it's going to be covered parking. So I'm not going to feel like, what the heck, it's raining outside. I don't want to take my bike, can I stick it in the bike shop or, so it'll be, we're trying to model that, and not only for us, but for our community at large. So I just want to make sure that, I think there's a strong movement toward less parking by being mandated. I mean, the new Roosevelt School development there actually has no parking required because, and yet there's going to be 145 residents or something. I don't know. But, we're trying to encourage people to ride bicycles, to walk, to take transit. And so we're trying to be a model of how that can happen aesthetically pleasing in a neighborhood.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I'll close the public hearing and consider the application. Need a motion to approve.
Okay, let me find it. What's that?
That doesn't mean that's where the vote's going. It's just what
No.
procedurally we have to move the motion to approve.
I lost my thing. If you give me the thing, I will read it.
Which is
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I recommend approval of EXC 25-0005 to reduce the on-site parking requirement by 50% from 5 to 2 parking spaces for the bike library located at 1222 Gilbert Court.
Need a second?
Okay. Yeah.
Second. All right. Any other board discussion?
I have some comments. One, I think that right now there is no delineated parking, and that is creating problems. We've heard about the problems it's created. And I believe that by designating the parking, calling it out, improving the planted barriers, restoring the sidewalk is all favorable. In essence, I feel like we're dealing with an existing situation and an existing use, a use that is ongoing, that has effectively no parking. And instead, this is an application with an idea of how to establish parking that is in compliance with our design regulations. That's all.
All right, thank you, Joan. Anybody else?
So my question is this problem solvable? The bike library party, do you see a solution here? Do you think that,
The public hearing is closed.
okay.
You can be rhetorical, but you can't really ask anybody.
So it seems to me that that's the issue and that's the challenge, and I have pretty high confidence that you guys can handle this. I think it's just a matter of logistics, communication, et cetera. But I mean, I think if we don't, we've just switched problems. We've just somebody will be back here again.
Nancy?
Yeah. I think there are two things that we have been discussing, but what can we rule on? And I think this is sort of like last month. There are two things, and what are we supposed to rule on? And we are supposed to rule on whether reducing the parking to 2 spaces rather than the 6 that are there now makes sense. And right now, the 6 are not in compliance with the standards that the city has right now. If we go to the 2 and they put them in the way they are, then they will be in compliance with the current regulations. So do we stay with the grandfathered in thing, which is not in compliance and is dangerous because people back out onto the street? Or do we change it to these, which makes it compliant with what is on the books right now and provides a safer access and exit for the people using those parking spaces? I am concerned about the parking problem or the congestion problem, but that's not what is before us. And that has already existed, and changing these parking spaces to 2 is not going to make any difference as far as that problem goes. The sidewalk on that side of the street is abhorrent. I mean, I can't imagine anybody in a wheelchair or anything trying to walk it. I mean, even older people like me sort of look at it and go, I think I need my little stick or cane to make sure I don't lose my balance. Therefore you end up walking only on one side of the street. I was there at 11:30 this morning. It was not open. The library was not open. There were more parking spaces available on that street than they were on my residential street at home. I went down there at 3:30 this afternoon. The bike library was open. There were still more available parking spaces on that street than there were on my residential street at home.
I agree basically with everything that the rest of the board has said. I don't think we're creating a new problem, but we haven't resolved a current problem, but that's out of our domain, and that's left up to the property owners. So what we need now is a finding of facts.
I have one other question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
So if this property were sold, could this property become a bar, for instance? Would it have to be rezoned? My question is, I know that we don't set a precedent here, but in that case, it sounds like
I think precedent, what you mean as a precedent is not what I mean. What you mean is, does this special exception remain with the
does
property?
it stay with the property?
Yes, it
Stay
does.
with the use?
But,
It does.
right,
Okay.
but it's not precedential in the sense that if someone on 123 Main Street asks for a parking reduction, it's just because you granted it here, you don't have to grant it, right, for that standpoint. But Ann, I'll let Ann, the bar, we've got
I don't
quite a
know.
few issues with that, but anyway.
I'd have to look that one up. I don't know if drinking establishments are allowed in this zone or not.
Oh, not
I
that it
think
would be.
there are a couple down here, so it might be an allowed use, but I'd have to check.
Right, but we've also got the 500-foot requirement too, so.
Yeah.
If I might, unless the rules have changed significantly, any change in use would require compliance with current regulations. I don't see how this building could be converted to a bar. I mean, it's currently the use. We are approving a special exception for a warehouse use, I believe is how this is classified. Is that right, Ann?
Yes.
Okay, so if someone were to come in and say, I want to change this to a clothing store or a bar, they would have to go through an entirely new and separate process for approval, including compliance with parking regulations for a retail store or a bar. Is that not correct, Ann?
Well, it can get complicated because a change in use doesn't trigger a zoning compliance review. It doesn't trigger a site plan. So unless they're doing something to the property that would maybe trigger a building permit or something like that, we wouldn't be aware of the change in use. So, and then again, there may be things that are non-conforming, and we have complicated non-conforming provisions. Some things may be able to remain. But I do hear what you're saying. If improvements are made to a property, it typically triggers some type of review that would come across our desk.
Okay, we still need the finding of facts.
Where is it? I've got to find
You
it.
got it? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just know, I need to know what my beginning part of it is.
This would,
Okay.
would, this case number.
Okay. regarding item EXC 250005. I concur with the findings set forth in the staff report of today, September 10th, 2025, and conclude that the general and specific standards are satisfied. Unless amended or opposed by another board member, I recommend that the board adopt the findings of the staff report for the approval of this application. I believe that the approval of the proposed parking reduction, all parking on the site would comply with current regulations. The 6 parking spaces that are there now have been non-conforming for some time. And that this use has unique characteristics that require fewer vehicle parking spaces.
All right, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
All right, good. Findings have been accepted. Roll call.
Tallman,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes. Motion is declared approved, and any person desiring to appeal this decision to a court of record may do so within 30 days after this decision is filed with the city clerk's office. And I want to thank all of you for sitting through this with
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the meeting minutes for the July 9th meeting. Comments, questions, additions, revisions? If none, we'll move the minutes.
I
be
move
approved.
that we approve the minutes from the meeting of July 9th, 2025.
I wasn't here, but I'll approve them.
Oh, that's right.
I'll second.
Second, okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Julie, I got you on record as an aye.
That's correct.
Okay, if there's no other business, we'll move for adjournment.
Just real quickly, there is a training for board and commission members at Terry Trueblood on Monday, the 29th of September at 6 o'clock. More information will be coming from Ann, but just wanted to let you know that it'll be 6
Would you
o'clock
give that
in
to-
person.
Did you give us that time again?
Yeah, 6 o'clock to 7:30, Monday, the 29th of September.
And the training is for open
Open
meetings law?
open meetings and open records that council wants all board members to attend.
Yeah.
So that's a,
Now all. Now all.
I didn't mind.
I have to go.
I didn't mind.
Just
online.
remind me, because I'm old.
Is that,
Sorry, Julie, what was that?
that's the training I already did online, right?
Oh, have you done it?
Yeah.
Okay, can you send me did you send anyone your confirmation that you completed it?
I can.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The link to,
Yeah.
okay.
the online ones have been pretty limited, and I don't understand why, when you have a webinar, why you have to limit people, but they have been. So city staff has arranged for them to actually come in person, and so anybody, so.
Is there dinner?
As a matter of fact, I think pizza will be served.
Really?
I'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll all be there.
Yeah.
Damn.
I thought,
We need some sort of compensation.
you know, if the city had any class at all, we would have pizza at this meeting.
We'd be walking in right
You
now.
know, we'd be having, whatever. Anyway, let's get out of here. Somebody
I
move to,
move re-adjourn.
I second.
all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Bye.